can hang out on the beach without freezing. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Welcome to Crafty Beach. This is Julie. Today I'm going to show you how I put together 10 coastal fall DIYs using supplies from the Dollar Tree. So we have lots of variety. We've got scarecrows, we've got acorns, we've got pumpkins, we've got little blue trucks filled with pumpkins. So many fun DIYs and very inexpensive because you're going to use items from the Dollar Tree. So I'm going to give you a sneak peek here of our 10 coastal fall DIYs we're going to make today, and then we will get into it and I'll show you how I put all these adorable little DIYs together. So let's get started. Our first one is I'm going to build a little blue truck out of these little wood pumpkin signs from the Dollar Tree. 2 of them to be exact, and a little wood crate from the Dollar Tree as well from the Crafter Square. So let's get started. It doesn't have to be this specific one with the pumpkins in the back because I'm actually going to fill it up with pumpkins. And so my first issue is I want this to be an actual truck. So we're going to build it. So the little hubs on the tires need to be popped off because I need to reuse those on the other side. This would have probably went a lot faster if I would have used a little bit of heat because I was just trying to pop them off. I was able to get them off though, and the little hubcaps, I guess. And that is going to be the inside of the truck now. So then I can reuse those bumpers on the other side. So I don't need the pumpkins in the back. So this is a pretty thin wood. So I'm just using a razor blade to pop that off and kind of trim it up and sand it where it looks like the bed of the truck. I love like little red trucks, but I always like to do a beachy version, which is a little blue truck. And the great thing about this DIY is that you can use it for any season. Just change what's in the bed of your little truck. This one didn't cut quite as smoothly as the first one, but that's okay. I'm going to trim it up and sand it down until we have a nice smooth top. And now it's time to put the back of my truck, or the other side of my truck, I guess it is, because this is kind of 3D piece. There's no front or back. And I need to put them on there upside down, so that they are the right size and direction. So it'll be like a mirror image of the other little truck. Now this one, when I peeled it off, some of the wood came with it. So I'm just going ahead and taking the rest of that layer of wood off. And this one was a little chewed up as well. I didn't want it to look all dented. And so I tried to give it a quick sanding. But there was some pitting in it. So I did go ahead and just use some spackle and just try to fill that in just to make it look a little nicer. I'm thinking that if I would have used my heat gun, I could have got that glue a little bit looser or more liquid in there. Maybe I wouldn't have had as much damage to the bumpers. But I definitely have to use the side that was glued on as the front so that everything is going the right direction. Because we just want to mirror image this little truck. So just filling in the little hanger on there as well. And this side of the truck is now ready to put together. So I'm just going to simply glue it on to make it look like the other side of the truck. And then the little wood bin that you see there is going to be the actual bed of the truck that we can fill up with whatever. Today we're going to do pumpkins. So I got the fenders on and the little hubcaps here. And here is the side of the bed of the truck. We're also going to reattach that. I tried to cut the opening out, but I wasn't able to cut. I can cut and pop off this, but I really wasn't able to cut like a hole out of it, if you know what I mean, just with a razor blade. It was a little hard. Okay, it's time to paint. I want this to be beachy blue, and so we're going to do chalk paint by Waverly in the color Agave. It's this beautiful blue color. This looks great for a truck, and we're just going to go over and paint this side. Now, when I put it together, it's kind of 3D. You can kind of see through, so I do have to go in and kind of paint a little bit of the inside. I kind of wish that I would have went ahead and painted the inside now before I put it together, you know what I mean? It would have just been probably a little bit easier. So I would recommend definitely painting both sides. And I just painted everything blue, the tires and everything, just to give me a nice base coat. And then I'm also going to paint our little wood crate. This size was perfect, this exact one, for the little bed of the truck, but you might be able to make some of the other wood crates from Dollar Tree work for this as well. Just kind of line it up to the truck to kind of see if it's going to be the right size for the bed of your truck. And I really love this DIY. I made this last year and I still have it. It's so cute and so fun. Okay, I've got all of my edges. I've got all my 3 pieces. So now I'm just going to put it together. What I did was just hot glue that on to the inside of that side of the truck. And then I'm hot gluing it on to this side of the truck. Now this part's kind of crucial. You want to make sure that it's level. Mine's not perfect. One of my tires doesn't sit completely flush with the ground, but it's pretty close. So there is like a cutout here on the door, and I did get a little hot glue like coming through that from gluing that on. So I'm just cleaning that up a little bit right here before we move on. And you'll see I have those popsicle sticks. I think these are called the giant popsicle sticks or the jumbo, one of the two. I get them at Walmart, and they're like fairly big ones, and we're just going to use scissors to cut them. And what we're going to do is first we're going to build like a hood for the top of the truck, because we're going to make this like really look like a real truck. So I cut a piece to size and then cut a couple more to finish off the hood. And I'm just putting some hot glue on each of my trucks and gluing the popsicles on. I really love popsicle sticks for something like this because it is wood, but at the same time the wood is thin enough that it's super easy to cut with scissors and you don't have to worry about breaking out a saw or anything like that. Now for the front bumper, we're going to kind of do the same. Just kind of cutting that, and I kind of cut it a little skinnier so it would fit right in there for the little bump out, like for like the headlights here in the front. And we're just going to kind of keep building down until like there's kind of like a, I guess, a grill on the front of the truck until it's pretty full in. Now the front of like where the windshield is, I'm going to leave that part open. You could always try to do some kind of fake glass for that as well. Like you could use like maybe one of those clear cutting boards from the Dollar Tree or something like that to fill that in. But I just leave that part empty. So I'm just worried about the hood, the grill, and now we're going to do the top of the truck in the same exact way. I'm going to fill that up, and that leaves that little opening there for the front windshield. I love building things like this from scratch. It's so much fun. But having the little truck sign was a great starter for this. And again, you're going to need 2 of them. Now to do this side of the windshield, I'm just cutting those down to size and then cutting them in half. You gotta kind of have to be careful when you cut them in half because they do splinter a little bit, but I just wanted a little bit of a skinnier piece to glue here on the sides to kind of frame out the front windshield, even though I'm not actually putting anything in there. Other vehicles that I've created, though, on my channel is I did a back-to-school tier tray where I made a school bus from scratch. That was really fun. And I've also made the little red radio flyer wagon, too, which was fun. Now, I didn't think the bumper looked quite good enough, so I'm kind of adding some pieces to that. And this piece, I kind of needed to glue a little spacer piece to glue to make sure that went all the way down for the front of the truck. And that's looking pretty good, like a truck. Now, I have some of these bamboo sticks. I got these on Amazon, and I'm just using my miter scissors that I also got on Amazon. I'll post a link to both of those below. They just happen to be the right exact size, like the bed of the truck, the little boards that were there. I'm also going to use them to frame out the back windshield, kind of like I did on the front. But again, you could always use popsicle sticks and cut that part out. Then I'm also going to frame out like the bottom of the windshield just to give it a little bit more structure right there and kind of finish off the cab. And that looks pretty good. Now, the only thing I didn't like about this structure at this point is that you can see in between the different popsicle sticks. And I don't want it to look like a wood build. I want it to look like an actual truck. And so I'm just going to use masking tape and kind of go long ways against it, cover that up. And then I thought when I paint over that, it's going to make it look like, it's kind of a molded piece and it's all in one and it's not all these individual boards. So just kind of working around the skinnier area there on the side of my windshield. Kind of like a paper mache technique, if you will. And this worked really well. I really like the texture and how that turned out. And you really can't tell that our little truck's made out of popsicle sticks. So just kind of covering up everything that I just built there on the top of the truck. And now we're ready to paint our truck build. So again, we're just using Agave Chalk Paint by Waverly. Kind of going over all of our new wood pieces on our truck. And can you believe how cute this is turning out? I absolutely love this DIY. Now, if you can't find the fall truck, they also have just the plain truck bed made out of wood, just like this in the Crafter Square. I know I saw it at my Dollar Tree today. And you wouldn't even have to cut the pumpkins off, so it'd be even easier. I think they also have like the galvanized metal trucks too, so that's a possibility as well. That'd be cool. And this is where I'm kind of painting inside because you could kind of see inside that it wasn't painted and kind of regretted my decision not painting both sides. Now to make it look extra coastal and beachy, I'm going to go in with some ivory chalk paint and my chunky brush, and I'm just very lightly distressing all over and wiping off any excess with a baby wipe to give me that nice coastal beachy feel. And this truck is coming together. There's only a few things left we have to paint. I'm going to use some Antique Wax by Waverly and kind of sloppy distress the little wood on the side of the bed of the truck all the way around, just to kind of make that look like wood and not the blue color. And any excess that gets on the piece is just going to distress it slightly, which is always good, right? I'm also going to go ahead and do the insides, and I decided to do the tires with the Antique Wax by Waverly too, because it's kind of a dark tone like a tire would be, but then it's going to kind of match in with that brown. And I don't have to be too careful with it. Just kind of leaving the little hubcaps blue like the rest of the truck, and we have a little blue truck. I just love this little guy. Now we need to fill it up. I got these little pumpkins at the Dollar Tree. They're the perfect size to fill in the back of the truck. I don't really like the color of orange they are, though. They're like really bright orange. So I'm going to take the little stems off all of them and paint them all. I use, this is called Pumpkin Chalk Paint by Waverly, I believe. And I painted them by putting them on little skewers from the Dollar Tree. That way I could get all the sides of them. The only thing is they're made out of foam. So I am using my heat gun to dry it to speed it up. But they kind of melt a little bit, so you have to be really careful with that. So I decided to use like just a foam block, a floral block to kind of stab the skewers into and kind of let them air dry so that I didn't melt them. They get like a scaly texture if you apply heat to them. And so I got one coat on, let them dry a bit, and then went back and put a second coat on. And we have these adorable pumpkins now in a color that I love. I also decided to update the little brown plastic stems with just like a gold paint pen to kind of make them a little bit more lighter and distressed. And now all we got to do is put the pumpkins back together. And then we're just going to pile these in the back of our little blue truck. See how much prettier that is than the original? That looks like a pumpkin to me. And they also have white ones, which would be really cute as well. But I really wanted to do the blue and the orange for this project. And there it is. Our little blue truck, coastal style, filled with pumpkins. And like I said, you could put Christmas trees in the back, hearts, whatever you want for other holidays. Okay, our next DIY, we're going to do a coastal fall wreath using one of these, what are they, grapevine wreath forms from the Dollar Tree, and some of these blue leaves from the Dollar Tree. I love the blue leaves because I think they're very coastal, and I thought we could do a really cute coastal fall leaf wreath. So I am just kind of taking it apart. I cut the pieces apart until I get a stem where I can kind of stab that down in there. This is great because it's wrapped with that twine already, so you can kind of stab down into the grapevine or also like underneath the twine that's already there. And I'm just working in one direction, kind of layer them on top, making sure that all my leaves are going in one direction. We're not going to go all the way around on this. We're going to go like maybe 2 sides. So anytime I felt like they were a little bit loose, I did use a little bit more twine to make sure that those were secure, because I'm only using hot glue like in a few places where I thought they were going to fall out, but most of it's just kind of shoved in there. And so now I'm working in the other direction, and I'm going to have like the leaves come down and meet. And so these are facing the opposite direction. That's going to kind of be the bottom of our wreath. And I needed another sprig of them. I needed a few more of the blue leaves to fill out this wreath for them. It turned out so pretty. I love mixing fall with coastal beach because they go so well together. Now, I got some of these white flowers at the Dollar Tree as well. I thought that would look really nice, or nice kind of like fall looking flower. And I thought that would go great with our little blue leaves. I'm just tying off where our leaves came together there to make sure everything stays put. And using a few of the white flowers in different sizes here from the Dollar Tree to kind of add a little bit of flowers to it. I also want to use some starfish. So I have a starfish from the Shore Living line at Dollar Tree. Just kind of trying to figure out where I want my flowers to be. So I'm going to put the big flower here at the junction where the leaves come together, and put a starfish up here, just attaching all of these with hot glue, kind of making them look kind of natural that they're in with the leaves there. And then I decided to use one of the sand dollars, also from the Dollar Tree, and gluing that on. If you missed out on the starfish and sand dollars at the Dollar Tree, you can always get them on Amazon, and they're actually real ones you can get. You can get molded ones too, but about the same size. Just adding a few more of the little white flowers, and I really love the blue and the white with a contrast against the brown frame, which we're going to leave the rest of the frame just as is. I think that looks really pretty. Just trying to glue and secure my last few additions here of flowers. That one was like fighting me a little bit, but hot glue to the rescue, right? Maybe. It's kind of hard to shove things down in there where you can't really see it anymore. And look how cute this turned out. I really love it. See how like the starfish and the sand dollars just go really well with the blue leaf. And it gives you that coastal fall vibe, but it's also giving you, just fall. See how cute? And let me show you how this wreath looks hanging in my house. It's kind of like, I would not say it's a small wreath. I would say it's probably a medium-sized wreath. You could hang it on your door, but it might be a little small for an outside door. Okay, our next DIY, we're going to make some scarecrows. So I'm going to use 2 of these long signs from the Dollar Tree, and then some of these little hanging sign scarecrows from the Dollar Tree as well. And they're cute, but I think we can make them a lot cuter. So I'm going to use these to stand them up. We're not going to have hanging Scarecrows, we're going to have standing scarecrows. But I just need to cover up all the writing that was already on there. So I'm just using ivory chalk paint by Waverly, a couple of coats of that to kind of get rid of all of the writing on there so you can't read through. The sides kind of have a brown and white gingham check, which is fine for fall, so they can kind of stay as is. Okay, we're going to start taking this guy apart. I'm just ripping the ribbon off of the back of the little scarecrow and pulling out the staples as I go. And it gives us the little scarecrow head, the legs, and like the arms holding a sign. Now, I want my scarecrows to look all coastal and beachy. And so I'm going to paint them. So we already have the pants, so we can just paint them whatever color we want. I'm using that chalk paint by Waverly in the color Agave. And I'm going to use that to paint his pants and his arms. I'm not really going to do anything with the hat yet because I think I'm going to do something different with that. Now I have my little white signs over there that I painted. Now I kind of want them to look like driftwood, so I'm going to go over that ivory paint that we did before with just some antique wax by Waverly. I've had some of you guys ask me where I get that, and I get it at Walmart. But a lot of you keep saying that your Walmarts are getting rid of their Waverly paints. I hope that's not true. Mine's fully stocked, so hopefully I can keep them because I love the antique wax. It's my favorite. Kind of just touching everything up there and making sure our coats of paint are dry before we can move on to the next step of our little scarecrow DIY. I thought we could kind of attach the pants. I'm going to attach this with hot glue, and then we'll glue on the sign like that, and then the head. But first we need to make this a little bit cuter. It's covered in glitter, you know. I don't approve, Dollar Tree. I just don't approve. So I tried to sand it off, and now I'm just going to go ahead with a little brush and some ivory chalk paint and kind of like, let's whitewash this whole sign and start from scratch. And the chalk paint's a little bit thicker too, so hopefully we'll be able to hide the fact that there was glitter underneath. I want this to be a fall sign that the little scarecrow's holding, but I want it to also be pretty and coastal looking. So once I get that looking pretty good, I'm going to go ahead and dry that. And I want it to look like they're holding a wood sign. So again, I'm using Antique Wax by Waverly, working in one direction. I kind of went over everything because I didn't want to mess up that like wood grain that I had going on there. So I'll have to go back and touch up the arms that I now made brown. So I tried to wipe it off and kind of touch that up a little bit. And antique wax is so forgiving because if you get it on other stuff, it's just going to make it look a little bit distressed, which I'm usually going for with my coastal DIYs. So that's giving me a great background to do my own little fall sign for this little scarecrow. You could make him say something like beach or something like that, but I had some of these little wood signs from the Dollar Tree, and this one says, Hello Autumn. And I'm just going to give that a coat of ivory, making sure that I don't have any drips in between the letters. And I'm going to go ahead and hot glue that on to our little sign. Now, doesn't that look better than the like paper printed sign that was on there before? Love it. I'm going to go back in and distress some more with some ivory to give that coastal beachy feel. And distress with antique wax to kind of distress the little wood letters. I want them to be wood looking, but a little bit lighter. I could have probably left them even natural wood. It would probably give me about the same effect. Then I'm just using a fine tip black Sharpie to try to like I can see the lines through it, but kind of redraw on some of the lines around where like the hay is sticking out on the side of the scarecrow arm. So that piece is about finished, just making sure that I have it looking pretty distressed, pretty good. Wiping off any excess with a baby wipe, and we're just going to glue that onto our little sign, leaving a little bit of a gap. Now, if you had like one of the shorter long signs, or if you took one of the long heavy-duty block wood signs, it would be even sturdier than these cheaper signs that I used for the base. Now, for the little face, I'm just going to kind of distress slightly his little face with Antique Wax by Waverly, just kind of making him look a little bit more weathered, but I kind of want his face to shine through there so I have something to work with. Just kind of distressing it and wiping it off until I kind of get what I'm going for. Then I thought I would repaint his little nose orange. It was kind of hard to paint it over that darker color. And so it worked out better if I went in with a little ivory first and did a little triangle and then went back and then painted that orange. It made it a little bit brighter. And that stands out a little bit better. Now for his hat, I'm just going to use some of this burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree. Fall is definitely the time to buy that. I love that stuff. Or you can use any burlap you have. But I didn't want the green hat to shine through, so I went ahead and gave it a quick coat of ivory chalk paint first. And then I'm just gluing on that burlap ribbon. It's the perfect height, just like that with hot glue. Then I'm just going to use my fabric scissors and go in and cut around the edges of our hat. And he has an adorable little burlap hat as well now. And just filling in the top piece there, kind of making a little differentiation between the brim of the hat and the hat. He's looking pretty cute. We're going to go ahead and attach his head. It fits perfectly at the top of that sign with a little bit of hot glue. And now we have a little scarecrow. I'm using that fine tip Sharpie to draw on like the cuffs and around his sleeves, kind of just outlining a little bit, and then distressing his, I guess his clothes, his overalls, with a little bit of ivory to give it a little bit more of a coastal touch. And of course he needs a seashell or something. I decided on one of these little tiny starfish from the Dollar Tree, but I also wanted to add a little bit of color to the hat. So I'm going to use some of this Shore Living Dollar Tree coastal ribbon in the starfish. It's this beautiful shade of blue and has little starfish all over it. Probably didn't need to add the starfish anymore at this point, but I wanted to. So I'm going to go ahead and add the little tiny starfish as well. And I'll try to remember to post a link below. Just let me know in the comments if I forget, because sometimes I do. Now, again, this sign's not very sturdy, and I didn't think it was going to stand up too well. So I'm just putting a giant Jenga block from Five Below in there, attaching that with hot glue to make it stronger. But those heavy-duty signs that like are not hollow, if you know what I mean, from the Dollar Tree, would probably work better for this. Now I wanted him to have little patches on his overalls or jeans, and so I'm going to use some of that burlap ribbon, cut out some little tiny squares, and just glue those onto his pants, one on the top and one on the bottom. Now here is the Mrs. Scarecrow. So y'all ready to do it all over again? We're going to do hers very similar. She has a little bit longer hair. I think this is a girl. Well, it's going to be our girl. I'm going to use that pumpkin chalk paint by Waverly because I really wanted to do like the combination of the blue with the orange. I think they go so well together. They contrast so nicely. And we'll have a little set, but again, they're going to be unique on their own because they're going to have their own kind of colors and personality. So just painting over what was on there before, leaving the straw part hanging out, sanding off the glitter off of the sign piece again, and going over that with a coat of ivory to kind of cover up all of the writing and everything that was going on that sign. If you like the glitter and you like the sign, you could leave it as is, but I wanted a little bit more of a simpler three-dimensional sign. And just making sure that that is dry before I go over it with some Antique Wax by Waverly, trying to make her little sign look like wood as well. Wiping off any of the areas I didn't want that to go, like the arms that were holding the sign. Just trying to make that wood grain look go all the way across. I love using the wood. I'm going in with another coat. I love using the Antique Wax because if you work in one direction, you can just give a faux wood grain, which is kind of what I'm going for with these little signs. And that's totally how it looks. Any of the woods are always going to look coastal. And distressing a little bit there with a little bit of ivory to brighten it up a little bit and add a little bit more of the wood grain look. Now we need to go in and paint her arms orange. I guess you could do a different color because if they were wearing overalls, Their shirt would probably be a different color, but we're just going to make ours orange, like the pants. Then I'm going to go over the pants with a little bit of ivory just to distress a little bit. Give me that coastal beachy feel. And we have our other sign here that we painted ivory and stained with antique wax, glued on the pants. Now let's finish off this sign part of our little scarecrow. Again, just redrawing on any lines that I may have covered up with paint with my little Sharpie and making sure I get it distressed exactly the way I like it. And this one's going to say, welcome fall. I love these little wood cutout signs from the Dollar Tree. I've been afraid to put any kind of wood in my Cricut because I know it can cut that really thin balsa wood and stuff like that. It's hard to find. You kind of have to order it from Cricut or online. And I'm just like, that sounds like a really good way to break my Cricut. And then I would cry because my Cricut was broken. So Dollar Tree can cut out the little wood signs for me. That's fine with me. And then I'm going to just use some antique wax to kind of make that look like wood and weather that a little bit. And just like on the first one, we're going to glue that above the pants, leaving a small gap. Now we're going to give this little scarecrow her makeover by slightly distressing her face with a little antique wax by Waverly. Kind of give me a little bit of a wood grain. And I'm going to paint her hat ivory so that I can go in and make her hat as well. Also going in and painting her little triangle nose back on, first with white and then with an orange paint pen to make that look nice and vibrant. And again, just using some of that burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree to glue over her hat. And I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to go around and cut off the excess. And then do a double layer for the top just to kind of make the hat and the brim look a little bit separate. She is coming along. She's super cute. I just love scarecrows. They're so fun for fall. And they really carry on well. You can use them pretty much all the way through Thanksgiving, I guess, right? And I am going to use some of this orange and brown gingham ribbon from the Dollar Tree. That's going to go great with her colors. And I'm trying to figure out what to put on her hat. I decided a little tiny seashell from the Dollar Tree would be perfect. Just giving her a final little makeover on her nose. And drawing the stitching back on with a little black Sharpie pen. And now it's time to attach her head. And we have two little shelf sitters. So cute. All I need to do is put a weight in her so she doesn't fall over as well. But I forgot her patches, so I'm going to go in and glue on a couple little patches on her pants. Kind of the opposite of what I had on his. And again, I'm going to glue in a block to make this a little bit sturdier. And it has that hanger in the back. You don't really need it, so you can pop it out if you want. It doesn't really matter. And there it is. His and her little coastal scarecrows are so cute. They're so much cuter than the little hanging sign. They have so much character. I just love how these little guys turn out. And we're on to our nuts for fall DIY. I'm going to use two of these little frames from the Dollar Tree, and we're going to make an Acorn Shaker Box. This thing is so fun because it's so cute, but it's fun too because you can kind of play with it. We all love a craft we can play with, right? These were kind of shadow boxes, but they were not very deep. They have writing on the frame, but I've heard that you can sometimes take that off with some fingernail polish remover. And I found that to be the case if you have a little bit of elbow grease, because some of the words are a little hard to get off there. But if you scrub them enough with that, this one definitely came off. So we have a clean face for the top of our Acorn Shaker. Just cleaning up the glass now to make sure it looks nice and clear. I'm going to put two of these together. The glass is going to be on the back of it. That way we'll have an opening in between that we can fill up with acorns. And we're using those wood acorns from the Dollar Tree. So I'm kind of seeing how many packages of acorns would be good for an acorn shaker. And that's how it looks with one package of them in there. Now, for the back, I thought we would cover that up. I don't need to worry about covering up the writing on there because that is the back. I'm just going to use some of this removable wallpaper from the Dollar Tree in this white wood look. I love this stuff. I think that always has a nice beachy feel, the white wood planks. And I'm just going to cut a piece of that wallpaper to cover that back glass to give us a fun little coastal background there for our shaker. Just kind of cutting it to size and then creasing it to try to figure out how big I need to get it, getting it pretty close. And just peel and stick the wallpaper on the back. Way easier than trying to paint over that glass. And that's how it's going to be, a little shadow box acorn shaker. Now, I thought there was a little bit of an opening there that I could maybe do something with inside the frame. And so I'm going to use some of this brown rope from the Dollar Tree. This is the kind of thinner one. And I'm just going to hot glue that in that little ridge. If you're using a different frame from the Dollar Tree, you might not be able to do this. But I thought it gave me another little coastal touch. And it filled in that little bit of a gap. Give it a little bit more character. Just using one piece to go all the way around. Hot gluing that down into that seam. And then following that up with my lighter to kind of clean that up and make that look a little bit more professional. And I think that looks pretty good. I decided to add more acorns because I thought if one package looks cute, what about 2 packages? Now, I love the acorns. I think they're so cute, but I want to paint them and give them some more character. So for the little tops of our acorns, we're just going to stain those all with a little bit of Antique Wax by Waverly, wiping off the excess with a paper towel. We're going to go really fast here because there's a lot of little acorns. Then for the other part of the acorn, we are going to go in and paint those some fun beachy blues. I'm going to do some of them in this agave color, chalk paint by Waverly. I think I use agave, pool, and lagoon, maybe. I was just going, oh, no. I use an acrylic too. I was going for like 3 different colors of blue. So I did 4 in the agave. I think this one's the lagoon. 4 in the lagoon. And it doesn't have to be chalk paint. It can be whatever you have. I thought it would look fun to have like different colors of blue in there. And this one might be the pool. Did use pool on this one. And then I wanted like an aqua color for the other acorns, and so I don't have any of that in chalk paint, but I do have it in acrylic, so I'm going to go in with a little turquoise color here. And we have all different colors of blue acorns for our little acorn shaker. And these are so easy to paint because they're just a raw wood. I saw this year, though, they have acorns that look realistic as well. So you could always do that as well if you don't want yours blue, or you could paint those as well. And I kind of want them kind of all going over to the side, but once you shake them, they can kind of go wherever they want. And here is the top of our frame, and I think we're ready to glue this together and make our little shaker. Now, don't worry, that's not it. I know I was looking a little plain at this point. It's fun, but it's a little plain. But we are going to decorate this up and make it super cute. That was me playing with it because it really is fun. So I measure it. I go to my Cricut, and I found this great little squirrel. And I'm going to make it have like a squirrel jumping into a pile of acorns. And it's going to say, nuts for fall. And I just did that on white vinyl, cutting that out of my Cricut. I think I might still have this file saved. I will check. If I do, I will post a link to my Cricut file. And I like to use this paper, transfer paper. I get it on Amazon. I'll try to post a link to that as well. And it just works great. I love it more than that Cricut transfer paper. And I'm just going to go ahead and put that on the front of the glass. Use my scraper to make sure my vinyl is good and down. And peel off my transfer paper. And look how cute that is. The little squirrel is like jumping into heaven. Into his pile of acorns. And I love the nuts for fall expression. Now, to kind of bring this all together, I thought I would use some of that burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree to cover the sides. That way it'll cover the seams of our frame. And it's going to give me another little coastal touch. It was too thick though, so I'm going to go in and cut down a thinner piece of the ribbon. And we're just going to simply hot glue that on. And you can see how that kind of disguises that. It's not a big deal. You could leave it with a crease in there, but I always like to add a little burlap to everything. I think it gives me a nice coastal feel. And we're going to work on the rest of the frame as well. We're going to go around all 4 sides of this frame with this. And that looks really cute. I got it on there and then I decided that I wanted to finish back. So I don't want that writing to be back there. So I'm going to use another piece of that removable wallpaper and simply cover the back, kind of piecing together some scraps. Doesn't really matter, but it's going to give me a finish back and make it look a little bit better. Now, I got it all together and then I decided I didn't like the white frame. So this is really not the time to paint it, but I wanted it to be blue. So I kind of really wanted a specific color of blue. So I'm mixing together blues and greens until I get that minty, beachy blue color and just acrylic paint. And then with a tiny brush, I'm going to carefully go around and paint my frame because I've already got burlap on it. And I don't want to try to get it on the glass. And I think this is the perfect final touch because it's going to bring in that coastal beachy blue that I use in my house a lot. And I love all the different colors of blues in there and the brown on the top of the acorns. And there it is. We have a final product. We have a little acorn shaker sign. It's fun and it's pretty. And I think it's so cute with a little squirrel on there. And this is how it looks on my shelf. Nuts for fall. I love that little squirrel jumping with his arm back. So fun. Okay, our next project is wood beads. These are the thinner wood beads. These are the ones I got in last fall at Dollar Tree. We're going to be using those today, but you can use whatever wood beads you have. This year, they have those Dollar Tree wood beads that are a little bit bigger, so that would work as well. And then I'm using one of these pumpkin forms from the Dollar Tree. I'm just using some wire cutters and cutting the tops away on each one of the wires because what I want to do is go ahead and take those wood beads and put them on each one of those wires. But first, I want to do something about like the frame of it. So this is going to be a large pumpkin, would-be pumpkin for your wall. This would also work really well for like a wreath for your front door for fall or Thanksgiving. So to start, I'm just going to kind of glue the rope to itself. This is that Dollar Tree brown rope, the one that's a little bit thinner. Now, if you used a thicker one, you wouldn't have to do near as much winding, so that would be an advantage. But this is what I had, so this is what we're going to use. So basically, I am just wrapping around the stem. That part's really easy until I get all the way around the little stem on the top of the pumpkin. So this pumpkin's going to have like rope around the edges of the pumpkin and then wood beads for each of the dividers in the pumpkin. And this is a lot of wrapping, so I'm going to put myself on super speed here and wrap, wrap, wrap. This shows you how far like one package can go. Note to self, don't take the tape off the end because that was really frayed. I had to cut off a lot of rope there. And then I'm just going to hot glue my next piece of rope to the rope that was already on there and continue wrapping all the way around the outsides. You could also wrap this with like burlap or something like that, but I did like the final result with the rope. Twine would probably take forever. And so we got it all wrapped, hot glued down, and now there's some of the fibers are just kind of sticking out, so I'm just going to take a lighter, go around and burn off any of the excess fibers, kind of give it a little bit of a cleaner look, and look how cute that is already. So what I want to do is take all those wood beads that I got at the Dollar Tree and string those on the wires. So I don't need them to be on the twine, so I'm actually just taking them off the twine so they are ready to go. And then simply stringing them, just stringing them on there one by one until they fill up. Again, the wood beads that they have at Crafter Square now are a little larger. You can also get your wood beads on Amazon. I've done that before. Dollar Tree started carrying them. And you know, Dollar Tree also has the cube-shaped ones. That would be cute as well. Now I'm trying to figure out where that went. And I'm going to tie some twine to the end of it to kind of tie off the beads so they don't go anywhere. I don't want those falling off. But I'm also going to use that twine to help me in attaching that back to the top of the pumpkin form. So I'm going to kind of figure out where I cut that, right? And then I'm going to go in and reattach. So I put some hot glue down. I put my metal stem down inside that rope at the top so you can't see where this kind of starts and stops. And then I'm going to take that twine that I had tied to it and wrap that around the rope. That's going to match in with the rope. You're not going to be able to see it. And so I thought the combination of the rope and the hot glue would make that a little bit more of a sturdier connection. And that worked really well. So now all we got to do is go in and do the same thing to the other 5 little parts. And I did a lot of wood bead pumpkins last year, and they all turned out cute. There's so many different things you can do with wood beads for pumpkins. And so again, tying off the twine when I get to the end, I can't get any more on there. Hot gluing the little wire down in between the rope, and then using that excess twine to wrap around and then glue that down, cut off the excess, and it is nice and secure. So we're going to speed this up as I do the other 4 here, all exactly the same way. I can't really remember how many packages of these I needed. Maybe 4. Because this is a pretty large pumpkin form. I always love DIYing these. They're so much fun. So we have all of our little wood bead sections of our pumpkin complete. And now we just need to decorate it. I thought we'd make a cute little bow. I'm going to use a combination of this wired brown burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree and also like the turquoise or aqua color. And I kind of have just whatever I have left on the roll. I just pinched it, made a loop, pinched it again, creating another loop, right? And that's pretty much all I have on that roll, but that's okay because we're going to keep building this and make it even bigger by using a little bit of blue. We're going to have a 2-toned bow. So I'm going to make a tail for the aqua one, right? Pinch it in the same place in the middle, loop it, pinch it. And this roll has a lot more on it. So instead of just doing 1 loop on each side, I'm going to be able to do 2 loops on each side and still have enough room for a tail. Then I'm just taking a zip tie from the Dollar Tree and cinching that in the middle, pulling down all 4 of my little bow tails and then pluffing up the wire on those ribbons, and it gave me a nice blue-brown bow. So we're just going to go ahead and dovetail that ribbon on the tails, making sure they're about the same length, and fluffing this guy up, cutting off the excess zip tie, and we can attach that to the top of our pumpkin, and I'm going to attach it with a zip tie as well. Oh, actually, I tied it on with a twine. I kind of push it down in there a little bit, making sure it doesn't really stick out too much. You have all that room inside, and then of course it needs a seashell, right? So I'm going to do an orange seashell that I got at the Dollar Tree, and we're just going to glue that to the stem of the pumpkin. And I think that's all it needs. We have a wood bead pumpkin. This would be great for your front door. It's so pretty and so classy looking. I really love the combination of the rope and the wood beads, all natural like that. And there's our little seashell on top. I'm just making sure that that's not going anywhere with a little bit of hot glue. And this is the final result. Isn't it cute? And this is how it looked hanging on my wall. But again, you could always use this on your door. You can make a larger hanger if you needed to. I just did a piece of twine. And We're halfway through the video, so I wanted to tell you about our private Facebook group. I'll post a link below. We have like 2,000 crafty beach bums over there posting all their great DIYs. You're going to get so many ideas. I'm also on Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest at Crafty Beach, on YouTube. And I would love to see you over there. This DIY is going to be using one of these little acorn, I guess they're like cups or vases. They're not quite big enough to do a lot with, but we're just going to make a fun shelf sitter with this one. I'm not even going to put anything in it, but you could totally fill it with acorns. That'd be cute. I am going to paint this on the backs and the sides with this chalk paint by Waverly in the color of Pool, a very soft color of blue. I'm also going to go ahead and paint the stand as well. I love these. I think they're super cute. I don't often know what to do with them when I'm not using them for a tiered tray, but I'm going to kind of try to go in there too, in case you can kind of see in there. The inside's going to look that light blue color as well. And we're going to do some techniques to make this little acorn look coastal and beachy. Just making sure that I get all of the inside painted. I'm going to do a different technique on the front, so that's why we are not painting one side. We're going to use some of my favorite wallpaper, removable wallpaper from the Dollar Tree. And we're just going to cut out a shape of that would just cover the acorn part, not like the acorn cap. So I just kind of make some small trims until I get it the size that I want it. It's kind of an odd shape that I'm doing here. So I'm just going to kind of take it one step at a time, and it's going to be kind of hard to trace that on there. So I do a little bit of blue paint around the edges in case my cut was not great, and then I just peel and stick the removable wallpaper on there, and it's going to give this fun palm tree vibe to our acorn, which is a really fun compliment, I think, to it. Now, I want the top of my acorn to look all bumpy, and so I'm going to use some of this, what's it called, like diamond mesh from the Dollar Tree, and I am going to just kind of sit it on there a little bit bigger than I need, and then try to cut it. I tried scissors, I tried a razor, and I went back to scissors. Just trying to cut through that. It's kind of a weird thing to cut. But I'm just going to kind of cut it without this part sticking to my wallpaper. I don't want to like rip that part or anything. And this is kind of a cool gold color, but I am going to go back and paint this a little bit too. But this is going to give me a very interesting texture on the top of our little acorn. So now I'm just going to cut around the edges of the top there until I get a pretty close cut all around the cap of our acorn. I love this project. It's so cute. And I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so now I'm just going in there with some ivory and painting the cap of that. It's going to kind of get in all the nooks and crannies around all the little gemstones that are stuck on there and give me that texture, but cover up the gold a bit. Now, once I have that painted ivory, I'm going to go in real quick and give it a quick dry. And then I'm going to go in with Antique Wax by Waverly and then go all over that ivory. The ivory was just kind of a base coat, because I want it to kind of look like driftwood, a woody look. And this really brought out that texture on the acorn, and it looked really cool together. You could also cover that part in burlap. It would give you a similar feel, but you wouldn't have quite as much texture as using the diamond mesh. So I'm just going to go over there and distress it a little bit more with that. And cleaning up any antique wax that wanted to drip over the edges or get on the wallpaper. And that's all there is to it. This project is complete. I don't think it needs anything in it. I think it looks adorable as is, and I love the blue coastal vibe. Okay, this is going to be a little blue truck Reef, and I'm going to make it out of ping pong balls. I found these ping pong balls at the Target dollar spot. I thought they were nice fall colors, but you could totally use the white ones from the Dollar Tree and just paint them. That would totally work, but these were already like a lot of them were already the colors that I kind of wanted to use. I want this to be coastal and fall, but I also want it to be kind of colorful. And so I'm just drilling a tiny hole in the tops and the bottoms of all of those, just using a wood block so I don't go through my silicone mat. I tried using the heat gun to burn holes in there, and I didn't have any luck with that. I've seen other people do that. And then we're going to use one of those brass wire rim reefs from the Dollar Tree. They come in a 3-pack of 3 different sizes. And my wire cutters, I'm just going to cut that so we can string on these. And I want to give the appearance that they're like giant wood beads, and they totally look like that. But again, they're just lightweight ping pong balls. And I'm kind of alternating colors, kind of deciding what colors I wanted to use. I didn't really like the pink or the purple, so I'm not going to use those. But I'm going to use all the other colors. I think they're very fun colors for fall because, of course, I've always got to have my beachy blue in there. And we're going to work our way around part of the frame. Again, we're not going to cover all of the frame. I think that is enough wood beads for now. And so I just need to reattach the top of that. And to do that, I'm just using some of that wire, floral wire from the Dollar Tree, and kind of overlapping it slightly, tying that together, and then wrapping that around to give me a nice strong hold to keep my reef all together. And a little bit of hot glue to make sure that stays in place. Some of them wanted to move around, so I did use a little bit of hot glue here and there to make sure they kind of all stayed exactly where I wanted them to on the top and the bottom one. Now, I thought I would use some leaves from the Dollar Tree for this frame. This is the orange ones. They're kind of a bright orange. Looks really good against that orange that was on the ping pong balls. And they were trying to escape again, so I'm making sure I get them good and secure. And then we can start decorating our little reef with some leaves. So instead of the blue ones, we're using the orange ones. I also really love the white ones. I just got some more of those today because I had ran out already. And they're great colors for fall. And so I just pulled them off 2 at a time, and then I'm just using those little tiny zip ties from the hardware section at the Dollar Tree to attach those to our little brass frame. I'm going to do another sprig of them here, kind of working in the opposite direction, kind of like we did before, where they'll come together in the middle, and one side of the leaves is facing one way, and the other is facing the other way. And we're going in with a 3rd package. I think that's all I used was 3 packages of the orange leaves. And those little zip ties are so easy, and they're so small that it's not like you're working with one of the big ones. They're so easy just to pop them on there, zip them, and trim them off. Okay, that's looking really nice and full. We have the leaves. We have the faux wood beads. I thought we would finish it off with a few more fall touches. I got these little ribbons at the Dollar Tree. They're like browns and oranges. I thought that looked nice with the orange leaves and right there for the combination, but you could always make your own bow if you'd like. And that one was just super easy just to attach to our reef. Then I was thinking a sunflower would be fun for fall, so I got these at the Dollar Tree as well. And just trying to figure out if I can kind of work those in a little bit here and hot glue that down on top of the leaves to bring a little bit of flowers into this reef as well. And this was a nice size reef. It's pretty large because I used the larger one. Trying to decide where I want my second flower. Sometimes you just got to put it on there and think. So I decided to do one sunflower on each side of the little bow, kind of working them down inside the little fall leaves. Now, you think we're about done, and you could be done, but we're going to take this a step further. We're going to add another little blue truck filled with pumpkins to kind of finish the vibe on this little sign. you see what I did there, right? I decided I didn't like it when I did put it there. So I did end up moving it and put 2 flowers together. Now let's make over this little metal truck that I got at the fall section at the Dollar Tree. And instead of a red truck, we're going to make it a little blue truck as well. Just filling in from where it had the little hanger holes with a little bit of spackle from the back. So we don't have any holes in it. Now, I really love the back windshield and the pumpkins. They look hand painted and they look really pretty. So I just want to change the red truck to blue. And so I'm just going to carefully tape off the parts that I like with some painter's tape from the Dollar Tree. And then we can go in and repaint this little metal truck and make it nice and coastal beachy. I'm also taping off the silver bumper as well, leaving all of the red parts of the truck ready to be painted blue. Now, I don't want all that writing to show through, and I thought I would get a better blue if I went over it first with a base coat. So I'm just going over with a base coat of Ivory Chalk Paint by Waverly and painting that metal until you can't see any of the writing or the red through. Red's always kind of a hard color to cover up. Once that's dry, I'm going to go in with that Agave Chalk Paint by Waverly and this nice beachy blue and make our little truck blue. Super easy. And then, of course, I like a little ivory distress, and so I'm going to distress that slightly, wiping off the excess paint with a baby wipe and peeling off our painter's tape to leave our pumpkins and our back windshield and our bumper all the original colors. And this made this look so fun because it looks so hand painted. The pumpkins in the back really look nice. So just kind of touching up any of the areas around where I had taped it off to make sure you couldn't see any of the red truck remaining. Then I'm going to use my red paint pen and draw on some tail lights where there were a little bit of an indentation where tail lights would be on our truck. And then I'm just going to use a white chalk pen to try to draw on some of the details that were on there before. You can kind of see where the windows were, the bed of the truck, the tailgate, and stuff like that. Then I'm just distressing all over with a little bit of ivory because you know your girl likes stuff distressed. And again, just going back and forth with my white paint pen. I thought I would personalize this to make it even more fun for my front door. And so I'm just using a white paint pen, kind of starting in the middle so I can get it centered right and doing our last name. And just for a nice personalized touch, you could always do any word you want on there. You could even put like hello fall or something really cute like that. And just distressing it all a little bit more. And I think that turned out really cute. So it's time to put it all together. We're going to put this little blue truck on our reef. And I think it's the perfect final touch for this little coastal little blue truck, pumpkin, leaf DIY. We got a lot of stuff going on here. And I just hot glued that on. And then I was a little worried that it was going to fall off. So I do make a little bit of a strap for the back to make sure that it doesn't. Just using some of that burlap ribbon. And hot gluing that to the galvanized metal truck on the top and the bottom. Just to kind of make a strap to make sure that it does not fall off out in the weather. And those ping pong balls weather very nicely if you're going to put this outside. Going to make a simple hanger out of twine. And this little wreath is done. And this is how it turned out. It's so colorful. I love it. I love the leaves, the flowers, and our little blue truck filled with pumpkins. And I love that I personalized it as well. Okay, let's make some more scarecrows. So these are the scarecrows they have at the Dollar Tree. I'm going to do a little his and her scarecrow out of these as well. But they look so cheap. They're so flat. So I thought we could try to make give these scarecrows definitely need a makeover. So I was trying to kind of take the existing clothes off. I tried to take off like right there in the front. Now you got to be really careful because I was trying to use heat, and this fabric from the Dollar Tree, I don't know what it's made out of, but it melted. Like my little part of my overall there melted when I was trying to get that off of its neck. And so I'm going to have to replace that, but it doesn't really look like overalls anyway. It kind of looked like suspenders. So we're going to go ahead and carefully try to take this apart. Trying not to melt it, but there's the little pants. Going to carefully try to take off his hat. I don't care if I ruin the hat because I'm going to replace it, but I'm going to try to save his little raffia hair. He's super flat, and so I thought we would be able to stuff this little guy as well to make him look more like a scarecrow and less like a flat material like it looked before. So we stuffed his little shirt. And then his arms weren't like standing straight out because there was no structure in there. So I'm just going to use a little skewer from the Dollar Tree and kind of poke that in so his arms are sticking out nice and straight. And gluing his shirt back down to that little foam piece that was in there. He's on like a little wood handle, which is great. Now we're going to go in and take care of the pants. I want them to be coastal and beachy, and so instead of denim, we're going to do this agave. Chalk paint works great on fabric because, you can even paint like furniture and stuff. I got like used couch cushions when my husband made a huge sectional for our Florida room, and I found the perfect amount. We kind of made it to size, and I was able to take like brown cushions and paint them blue by using chalk paint. I didn't know that you could do that. And that is nice and painted. We're going to sit those pants aside to dry. They're pretty wet. And then I thought we would kind of make a new hat, because we melted the old one, out of some burlap. That's going to give it way more of a coastal feel. So I'm just kind of measuring out like a cone shape. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 because we're going to do 2 scarecrows. And if you kind of wind it like a cone like that, it's going to give me a super cute little scarecrow cap like that. You can just roll back the brim. So I'm going to use some hot glue to glue that into that like cone shape. Super easy. And peel back his brim. He's going to fit nicely on his little head. So the hat is taken care of. Now I wanted to make the face a little bit more special. So I'm going over with some ivory chalk paint. I think this was actually cashew. Maybe it was a little bit more brown. And going over his face so we can kind of have a fresh little scarecrow face to begin with. If you like the face that's on there though, you could totally leave that part. Now the back is kind of open, so I thought we'd kind of cover that to make this look a little bit better. I'm just going to use one of those little burlap bags from the Dollar Tree, just for a little extra burlap, and cut out a circle. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 because again, we're going to do his and her on the scarecrows. And glue that on the back. It's going to cover up that exposed foam back there. And it kind of, that was kind of an orange print, so it kind of matched the shirt as well. But you use whatever you have. Now you can kind of see the little scarecrow face still through, so I'm going to do a second coat of chalk paint on his little scarecrow face. Now these little blue pants are dry. We're going to use a skewer and some pillow foam from an old pillow and stuff our pants so we don't have a flat little scarecrow. We're going to have one that looks real. All right, time to put the skewer back in and attach the pants to our scarecrow using a little bit of hot glue on the back to make sure that I don't melt that fabric and that foam. I'm being very careful. And he has pants now. I thought I would try to make it look like overalls though, and his little suspender parts, got melted. I'm going to use one of these little disposable like towels, I guess they are, from the Dollar Tree. They're like the paper towels that you can like wash and reuse. And it's a great source of fabric. And I am just going to cut out like bib overall front for the front of our little scarecrow like that. That would be perfect. And it was actually better than what he had before. And I'm going to go ahead and make 2 of those because again, we are doing his and her. And it's easier to go ahead and have everything pre-cut out for the next one. Now I want to make this agave too to make it match the rest of his overalls. So you can also paint this stuff. So super cool. I was really happy with using those little reusable paper towels. A very easy way to make a little bit of custom craft fabric for this. Just going over it with another coat to make sure that we get a nice blue coat. And now we are ready to dress our little scarecrow. I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue and glue that down on top of the pants. And now it looks like he's wearing little bib overalls, which are so cute. Reminds me of my grandfather. He was a farmer and he always wore his bib overalls. And every time I see them, it makes me smile. Now, to kind of cover up the seam in between and to give it a little bit of coastal touch, I'm just going to use some of the thin white nautical rope from the Dollar Tree and just kind of tie that around and make a belt. Totally not necessary, but I like to add a little coastal touches here and there because this is going to be a little coastal scarecrow. Now, for the eyes, I thought we used buttons. I'm trying on his little hat as well, and then I thought we would draw on a little triangle for his nose with an orange paint pen and a little funny scarecrow mouth using a black paint pen as well, adding a little bit of stitching to it just for fun. And then I picked out like two little like black buttons from the Dollar Tree to make his eyes. He's so cute. And so we saved his raffia hair from before. So we're going to gather that together. I'm going to tie that together to keep it all together and then glue that on top of his head. He's got crazy hair right now, but we're going to put his little scarecrow hat that we made for him, attach that with a little bit of hot glue here in front, and wrap that around and glue that a little tighter on the back so his hair will stay in place, and so will his hat. And again, we just made a brim just by folding over the edge of the burlap. And then I'm just going to, I didn't really like the raffia that was on there, so I'm going to take a little raffia and do my best to tie a bow. I hate working with the raffia. It's kind of hard to use. And make him a little bow for the front of his shirt. He doesn't really have a collar or anything. And just attach that with hot glue. And I think the Scarecrow is looking like $1,000,000. He looks so much better than he did before. Nice and stuffed. His old hat had this little fabric patch on it that matches the shirt. So I'm just going to use that and glue that onto his new little burlap hat. And of course he needs a seashell. So we're going to finish that off with a little seashell on his hat to give him a little bit of a coastal flair. Now I want this little scarecrow to stand up, so I'm going to use some of these little hay blocks from the Dollar Tree. And I thought that'd make a great base for him. It would go with the scarecrow, the fall look, and just stab that skewer that was attached on him all the way down into it. Now here is Mrs. Scarecrow. She's going to get the same treatment. We're going to melt off her little hat, save all her hair, and take off her little bow tie that doesn't really go. And take off the front of her suspenders, take off her pants. We're going to give her the same little makeover that Mr. got. So I cut that extra piece of burlap for the back of her head. I'm going over her with the same color of cashew chalk paint by Waverly to cover up her face. She was super easy to put together, and we're going to do this really fast because a lot of the steps are exactly the same as the last one. I'm going to stuff her shirt. And here are her pants. I cut out a second top bib overall top so they would have matching bib overalls. And I'm just painting that pumpkin chalk paint by Waverly, which was a little bit lighter than the pants were already. And we're just stuffing her pants like we did before. And we're going to go ahead and dress our scarecrow by putting on the top of her bib overalls, attaching that with a little bit of hot glue. You could make a back for those as well if you'd like. And gluing her pants back on over the little wood skewer that holds up the scarecrow. And again, I'm going to give her a little nautical rope belt, just for fun, and to kind of cover up that seam between the top and bottom of her overalls. And we are ready to decorate this little scarecrow head. So I had cut out an extra piece to make a hat for her as well, also out of the burlap ribbon. And we're going to draw on a little scarecrow face on her. I love doing scarecrow faces. They're so fun because you can use little details like stitching and stuff like that. Give them a little stitched mouth. And I think the detail of adding like some dark colored buttons for the eyes. Just gives it a little bit more of a special touch. She's looking good. She's looking good. So we saved that raffia hair. I'm going to gather that together, tie that off with a little bit of twine right in the middle so we can glue that to the top of her head. And again, we're just going to make a little hat for her out of that burlap piece by gluing that to the front and gluing it a little tighter in the back so she all stays together. So cute. She looks really nice as well. And we have our blue and orange that we've been using a lot today for fall. Going to tie a simple little raffia bow and replace that ugly bow tie that was on there before. And we have a cute little coastal stuffed scarecrow to go with the male version. I thought I would use the little leaf that was on her hat before to decorate her hat, along with maybe a little starfish or shell here from my stash. I decided on this one and gluing the little seashell on her hat. And we have a subtly coastal little scarecrow, and they just look so cute together. So I gave her a block of hay as well to stand her up. And we have his and her scarecrows. Aren't they sweet? I just love how they turned out. They're so fun. I'm so glad I stuffed them too. They did not look very good when they were flat. Okay, now we're going to do another version of the little blue truck. I'm going to use one of the little truck yard stakes from the Dollar Tree. Basically, I just need the truck off of it. And what I want to do is try to make this like a 3D truck that actually has like a bed on it that you can fill up with pumpkins. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut it right here at the bed of it, to cut it into 2 pieces. Now, it would be even better if you had 2 of these, or, I think these come in hanging signs as well, because it would save you a few steps later. I only had 1, and so I'm going to show you that you can make it out of 1, but ideally, if you had 2, it would be even better. So, just cutting the bed of that truck and kind of going to trim off the pumpkins that were sticking out of the side there of the cab, because we're not going to have painted on pumpkins. We are going to have actual pumpkins in the bed of our truck. So this is probably a simpler version of the little blue truck that we did earlier. Again, you could use it for any season, not just for fall. And then I'm going to take one of these wood boxes from the Dollar Tree, and look how that's the perfect size if you do it sideways like that to make a little bed for our truck. So I was trying to see if the paper would just come right off of there, and no such luck. But I'm going to go ahead and just cover it with some cheap contact paper from the Dollar Tree, just to make sure that it's going to have a nice finished back and you're not going to be able to see that. And so this stuff is so thin, all you do is sand off the excess. It's going to give you a perfect clean cut all the way around the cab of our little truck. And I'm going to paint it. And so I am using chalk paint by Waverly, the color Agave, my favorite little beachy blue color, especially for my little blue trucks. There was a little bit of a hole in there, so I'm just filling that up with a little bit of spackle and touching that up with a little bit more blue paint to give me a good surface to start with for the back of our truck. And that looks pretty good. Now here is the tailgate of our truck that says Farm Fresh Pumpkins, and I'm just going to go ahead and cover all that up with some ivory chalk paint to cover up the red. We want to cover up the writing, and then we can go back in there and paint this a beachy blue as well. This DIY was really easy to put together, and it really won't take you any time at all. So now we're going to go in there with that same color Agave, chalk paint by Waverly, and paint the bed of our truck blue. And I just do enough coats to make sure that I can't see any of the writing through there or any of the red. I'm going to go in there with just a paint pen and draw on a back windshield. Pretty easy to sketch out there. And kind of put some lines to kind of make it look like glass just for fun. I'm going to go around and trim that out with a little bit of gold too, so it's not just all white. And then I decided, no, I want to color in the whole windshield. So I do. And this is like a silvery paint pen, so it's going to kind of give you that reflection like it's actually a window. But it doesn't cover great, so it did require a couple coats of that. I think that looks pretty good. I would like to take a moment to thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate all of your support. We're almost to 9,000 subscribers, which is so exciting. I can't wait until we reach 10K. It's going to be here before we know it. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? It's free. So after I got that painted silver, so I changed my mind a million times, I outlined that in gold. And now we can start working on the bed of the truck. So I just mixed together some elephant gray and a little bit ivory to make a little lighter gray color, and I just repainted that bumper just to give it, you know, a hand-painted feel. I don't want it to look all papery, and then I'm also using some ink, chalk paint by Waverly in black, to do the tires. Now once I have it all painted, I'm just going to go over with ivory and distress all over, give me that coastal beachy vibe on our little blue truck. I don't want it to look all solid color, and then wipe off any of the excess stuff with a baby wipe. Now for the tailgate, I got some of these little wood words from the Dollar Tree. This one says Farm Fresh, and I thought that would be perfect for the tailgate. But quickly I'm going to go in and distress the cab of our truck as well with some of that ivory chalk paint. And now I'm going to go ahead and try to draw on where the tailgate is. Again, I'm using like a tan or a goldish marker. Kind of goes with my color scheme there. And giving that a quick dry with my heat gun. Distressing those lines as well so they're not too abrupt. And you know, I'm just going to distress it a little bit more because I always do. So the Farm Fresh for the tailgate, I thought that'd be really cute. I'm going to go ahead and do a coat of ivory chalk paint on that. Just making sure I don't have any paint caught in between the letters. And then I decided to use a little bit of ivory to do the tailgate instead of the gold. I didn't really have an ivory paint pen, and I think that works a little bit better. Then I'm just going to distress this one a little bit with blue, kind of the opposite distress that I did on the truck. And now we can start working on the bed of the truck. This wood box happens to have star cutouts on it, which is fine because I'm just going to cover that up anyway. And one of my viewers gave me this great tip to use a masking tape to cover that up, and that you can paint over it and you can't even tell it was there. And this trick works really well. I used to cover them up with dominoes, but I like this trick even more because you don't have anything sticking out. And then I'm just going to go in and paint the bed of our truck, our little box here, with some of that chalk paint by Waverly in the color Agave, which we have definitely used that color a lot today. Just trying to get in all the corners. I want the inside of the bed of the truck to look all blue. And again, just like the first truck we did before, you can just totally fill this with whatever season it is. It'd be cute with Christmas trees or, you know, stars, hearts, anything kind of like that. Easter eggs, carrots. So fun for any season. But like trees and like carrots, things like that would be even cuter because they really would be farm fresh. And we get the sides. That like masking tape method worked super well for the sides of those. And this is how I want to put it together. I want to put the cab on the back. And I'm using a giant popsicle stick here. And I'm going to cut that down to size. And then I'm just going to use some hot glue along the back here. And I'm going to glue that jumbo popsicle stick to it where it kind of is coming off the edge like that. And then I'm actually going to glue that to the box. You could kind of glue it on there and then reinforce it with that, but I liked doing it that way. Now, if you had to, this would be your back truck, and then it would go all the way down to the ground. It would have tires, so that would be really good. I'm going to have to work around that because I don't have 2 of the little trucks. And we're just distressing the bed of the truck to kind of go with the rest of the truck. A little slight ivory distress all over. And wiping off any of the excess with a baby wipe. Y'all, I had this video all done and I had it uploaded to YouTube, and then I realized that this truck was missing. I did the wrong truck, and so I had to go back and like change the whole video up, and I'm gonna have to re-upload this to YouTube. I don't know what I was thinking. So we're just gonna attach that to our tailgate with some hot glue, and that looks so cute. And so now we just need to attach the tailgate to our box, our bed of our truck. And I'm going to do that with hot glue as well, trying to keep my head out of the shot there. Now, as you can see, since I didn't have the truck for the back, that would have filled out that perfectly. We would have had the tires to hold it up. So I'm just going to have to make some kind of a stand that's going to be about the same height as the tires, so that this will stand up now. So I'm using some of these giant Jenga blocks from the Five Below, and I think I can make those work. And I'm just going to make some little legs. You can kind of use whatever you've got. And I'm just going to simply glue those together, and we're going to make a little stand. This part, you won't be able to see it from the front. And I just glued 3 of them together until I got about the right height that I needed. And then I'm going to hot glue that onto the bottom of our little truck bed. And I wasn't totally happy with the height of those with my tires. I thought it was a little unbalanced. That's why I wish I would have had 2 signs, because then the tires would have been kind of even. And so I'm going to be a little extra here. It probably would have been fine. I'm going to use some of those jumbo popsicle sticks to cut off some new tires, just to make my tires a little bit taller here in the front. So I kind of measured how big I would need them to be, and then I'm just cutting off 2. And the shape of a popsicle stick is also the shape of a tire, so I didn't have to cut that curve or anything. Those are just the ends. And then I'm just going to go in and paint those with some black chalk paint by Waverly. This is the color ink. And I'll just attach these new little tires to the front of our truck so that it's going to boost it up just to make it a little bit taller. Once I get them all painted black, I also distress them a little bit with a little bit of ivory just to give them a little farmhouse charm. And we can attach them. So I'm just going to glue them on top of the tires that were already there. Now, if yours was level, you wouldn't have to do this step at all. Okay, this little truck is really looking cute. I am going to go in and kind of just distress around the edges with a little ivory. Just because some of the edges of the signs may not have got any paint on them. Just to kind of finish it up and give it a little bit more of a finished look. And I got to give it, a few more touches. I like the kind of the very rough outline around the tires and the bumper. I think that looks really cute. Kind of makes it look very 3D. And kind of all along the edges. And even the little wind chill. We'll outline that as well too. And this little blue truck is just about finished. I thought we would use some of these foam pumpkins to fill up the back. We're going to paint these little guys with some pumpkin chalk paint by Waverly. And I'm going to speed this way up because I'm going to use the same exact painting method that I used before, using the skewer so I can paint all over and then using some foam to stand them up so they can dry because I don't want to melt those foam pumpkins with my heat gun. I think this color is so much prettier and I really wish that Dollar Tree made them this color. It would definitely save a little bit of work. And I'm going in there with a second coat and making sure they are all completely covered. And then I'm going to let those dry as well. So we have pumpkins to fill the back of our little blue truck. And they really do look so much prettier. So we're just going to pop the tops in, all of these, and we're going to load up the bed. And this is another version of the little blue truck. This is how it looks on my shelf. I think it's so cute. Kind of a different perspective from the first one. Okay, we got more scarecrows. So these are like the really tall sign scarecrows, his and hers from the Dollar Tree. And I thought I would give them a coastal beachy makeover as well. These are great because you can use them like as shelf sitters or something if you need something tall next to your front door or something like that. Now, it was kind of a slatted, so I was kind of just drawing the slats back on the areas that it wasn't before, but this guy is going to get quite a makeover, so that step's probably not necessary. The first thing I don't like about it is it's that printed paper, and I want it to look hand painted, so I'm just using a chunky brush and some ivory chalk paint and kind of going all over in one direction, and we're just going to distress this little Mr. Scarecrow all over the first part of our little coastal transformation of this guy. He's looking pretty cute. Then we are going to just go ahead and do some ivory chalk paint over where his hat was before. And I thought instead of having like the little printed hay coming out of his hat, it'd be really cute to do like real like raffia. So I'm using some raffia from the Dollar Tree and just cutting out some bangs here for our little scarecrow. And kind of lining those all up where his hair would be. So fun, and we're just going to glue those all down, and he'll have like some real hay sticking out from the top of his hat. Anytime I can add some structure to a piece like this, it's automatically just going to make it look so much better than the printed sign. So just filling that in until I like the way his hair looks. And we're just going to tear the paper off of the bill of his hat, but we're going to totally reuse that part of the hat to cover up the top of his hair there. And then I wanted to give him a little burlap hat. This is the burlap rolls from the Dollar Tree. It's wider than the one from Dollar Tree, but you know, Dollar Tree has a wider one like this now. I just picked up a bunch the other day in the Crafter Square. So if you're lucky, you'll find that. But otherwise, you can get burlap really cheap at the Walmart, and that's where I usually buy it. I often buy it just in the yard as well. So we're just going to cover up his hat. I wanted to use the existing hanger, so I'm kind of trying to leave that on there and just working around and gluing the burlap over the sides of the sign. And there is the little brim of his hat that we're going to reuse. And this is the thinner burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and we're going to cover that in burlap as well. Just attaching that to the existing part of the hat and going around with my fabric scissors and just cutting off the excess burlap. And he's going to have a nice little burlap hat. Super fun and very coastal looking. So just making sure that is trimmed up, and we're going to attach that with hot glue. That cleans up the top of his hair and gives him a brim to his little hat. Super cute. Okay, so I'm just using my Sharpie paint pen, or not paint pen, marker to kind of draw some stitching on his face. I thought I would replace his little drawing of a bandana with an actual bandana. So I'm going to use some of this blue and white gingham fabric from the Dollar Tree and cut him a little bandana that can go around his neck. Just by cutting a little triangle out of that fabric and kind of rolling it like you would a bandana. And we can wrap that around his little neck. And again, that's going to give us texture and make this like just so much more special. I had a little bit too much fabric going in there, so I made my triangle a little bit smaller, and that's the perfect size for our little scarecrow. And we're going to glue that on the back to hold our little bandana on our little farmer, I guess. Farmer, he's wearing overalls, neck. And I also kind of want it to look, three-dimensional. So I'm kind of like pulling it out a little bit there to give it a little bit more depth. And getting any of the excess hot glue I have, I want it to be kind of rippled. So I'm going to kind of glue this part down so that part in the middle will kind of stick out and just give it more depth. And I think that looks so cute. The addition of the real fabric on there really makes it special. Woo, this is a long video. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. I really appreciate any of your views on my YouTube channel. We are almost to 9,000 subscribers. I can't wait to get to 10,000. But if you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? It's free. Just hit the subscribe button and you can help us reach our first goal here on Crafty Beach. Now, since I did the hair in raffia, we got to do like the straw coming out around the wrist as well. So I'm just cutting little pieces of raffia and attaching that to the arms of our little scarecrow for fun. And let's go ahead and do the same thing for the like hay that would be sticking out at the bottom of his pants. Just by cutting little pieces of raffia and gluing that on. I really like that touch. Now to kind of make, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Cuffs for his sleeves and to kind of cover up the top of that raffia, I'm just using some jumbo popsicle sticks and cutting those out to size. And we'll also do the bottom of his pants to make little cuffs for the bottom of his overalls as well. So we got those two pieces cut out. I'm going to flip it over so you can see. And we're going to do the same thing here for the bottom, but we can just use kind of one piece that goes all the way across. Cutting it in two. And putting them together like that. Super cute. So I'm just going to stain them to make them look like wood. I'm just going to stain the popsicle sticks with some Antique Wax by Waverly and wipe off the excess. Anytime I use wood, I like to stain it if I can. And I think that's going to look really cute there for his little cuffs and the little folds in his pants and the little straw sticking out below. Super fun touches, and this just gives a little bit more depth to the project as well by adding the wood to it. Now he has little patches like printed on his pants, and so I'm going to use that same blue fabric that we made the bandana out of and just cut little patches out to size. That would be just like the pattern that was on there before, and just simply attach those with hot glue. So cute. And how cute is this little scarecrow looking with all of his little extra touches. I love him. But of course, I want to give him a little coastal vibe. I thought I would give him a little stripe for his hat. I also had blue gingham ribbon from the Dollar Tree that matched that fabric perfectly. So I'm just going to glue that around the brim of his hat to kind of give him a stripe on his hat. Then I thought I could finish him off with maybe some seashells or starfish to make him look coastal. And this is one of the Dollar Tree starfish from the Shore Living line. I'm going to glue that onto his hat. He's going to look nice and beachy. You got to be careful with those, though. You kind of have to glue the arms that are going to actually touch it and not the middle like I had tried to do before. He's so cute. I love him. Okay, now it's time for Mrs. Scarecrow. She's going to get a makeover as well. So again, just popping off the brim of her sign. And we're going to add lots of special touches to her as well. So I drew her lines on. For her hat, I thought since she's orange, we would do orange burlap. So I'm going to use some of that orange burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree for her hat. And I'm just going to go ahead and paint that orange just so you can't see anything through the burlap onto the back of her hat. Now, I wasn't lucky enough to have like an orange and white gingham fabric from the Dollar Tree. And so I'm going to actually try to use some orange and white gingham ribbon that I was able to get at the Dollar Tree. And we'll see if we can make like a scarf for her. I didn't really like the color of orange. I wanted it to be a little bit softer. So once I got the burlap on there, I'm actually painting it with a little pumpkin chalk paint just to make it about the same color as her overalls. And I'm just going to go over her and distress all of her with a little bit of that ivory chalk paint. Again, just kind of distressing the printed image on there to make it look a little bit more hand painted. Giving her some little final touches on her face. And we're going to cover the brim of the hat with that orange burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree as well. Gluing that on and just cutting off the excess fabric, and we can reattach her hat too. Now she's getting a very similar DIY to the male one, but I didn't have all the same stuff, so it's going to be a little bit different as well. And painting that to match the top of her hat. We're going to attach that with a little bit of hot glue. And I did replace her hair there with some raffia as well. And this is what I mean. I didn't really have the fabric, and she had a scarf. So I thought if I used overlapping pieces of the orange and white gingham ribbon, I could kind of give that look of a scarf as well. Even though I didn't really have the fabric for it. So we're going to glue those three together and then kind of wrap those around the back. 3 of them was about the same depth of the scarf, and then use some pieces too to do the front part of her scarf. So she has a scarf when the boy one had a bandana. And kind of trimming that up and gluing that down. Wasn't really happy with that, but it kind of worked. And then for her like little patches on her pants, we're going to use that orange burlap as well. Painted that lighter color to match her hat. And now I just have to go cut that raffia. We're going to replace the hay on coming out of her pant legs. Stick that out. And then also around where it would be coming out of her sleeves. To give that straw effect to our little scarecrow. And it is more time intensive to add these little special details to it, but it just makes the final product so much more special. And once I make the boy and I make the girl, it just goes so much faster because I know exactly what I'm going to do. So again, I'm going to cut popsicle sticks for all the cuffs. I'm going to stain them with a little antique wax by Waverly. And attach those on, and that's going to cover up the tops of all of our raffia to give us a nice clean seam there. So I didn't have to be too perfect on cutting those out for sure. And this little scarecrow is coming together. I'm going to use that same orange and white gingham ribbon to do her little stripe on her hat, like I did on the boy one. Gluing that down kind of in a curve and pulling that around the back and gluing that down as well. I kind of glued the ribbon to itself to try to make it look like it was more one piece than it was looking before. Kind of gluing it all together to make one big giant ribbon. Then I'm going to give her a little seashell in her pocket or her patch there. And I thought she would get a sand dollar. So this is one of those sand dollars from the Dollar Tree. We're going to glue that onto her hat. She has a sand dollar. He had a starfish. Kind of do the opposite side as well. So we have a little paired set like that. And since she had a seashell, I thought I would give him a seashell in his pocket. So I glue a little seashell to the front of his bib overalls. And we have a little his and her. Long sign, scarecrows. I think these turned out so fun. I thought it was dead, and then I wasn't totally happy with her scarf. And so I decided to like kind of ruffle it and glue it down. And then I was finally happy with it. Sometimes, you know, a project just needs one more thing. And this is how they look hanging next to each other. You could like stand these up against something because they're so long, or you could hang them. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. It's time for the final reveal. Don't forget to comment your favorite DIY below or just say hi. And don't forget to like this video. And if you haven't subscribed, I would really appreciate it.
Open up the window. I'm breathing in the last of September. I can feel the wind blow, and the late summer sky is like a giant ember. Everything is turning into gold. When the autumn leaves are playing chase, it puts a smile up on my face. They leave their branches one by one and whirl around there just for fun. Some are faster, some are slow, and some are high and some are low, dancing through the last days of September. Since I was a little child, every year for as long as I remember, all the leaves were running wild, going all the way until November. Turn the world around us into gold. When the autumn leaves are playing chase, it puts a smile up on my face. They leave their branches one by one and whirl around there just for fun. Some are faster, some are slow, and some are high and some are low, dancing through the last days of September. I wonder where they're going, the flight of swallows sailing through the sky. There's no way of knowing, but maybe someplace far from you and I. When the autumn leaves are playing chase, it puts a smile up on my through the last days of September. Open up the window, I'm breathing in the last of September. I can feel the wind blow, and the late summer sky is like